Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
Welcome to episode 15 of the Retro Disney World Podcast. This month is titled Veggie, Fruit. And with that, we'll be taking you back to the days of the Kitchen Cabaret in the Land Pavillion at Epcot Center. But before we get to that, as always, I want to welcome the crew to the show this month. Hal Bowers, how are you tonight, Hal?
Cha-cha-cha.
Yeah, we'll look at it in the beginning, not even the end. Mr. Brian P. Miles.
Happy New Year from the city of brotherly love.
Brian, you were the star of last month's show with the Christmas episode.
Well, thank you. I was the Christmas star.
The Christmas star, that's right. And as always, from Ohio is JT Cougar. How you doing tonight, JT?
Good. How's it going?
Good. You were down there. You were down in Florida this month, right?
Yes, marathon weekend. Did the Dopey Challenge. Well, I didn't.
You just a spectator.
That I'll tell you, it's not retro, but that was the toughest time ever to navigate that place because every road's closed and it was a challenge, but it was cool. Definitely neat.
Actually, Todd, you're the only one of us who was not on Disney property in Florida.
Over the past month or so, yeah. That's true.
That's true. Hal and I were there.
That was a wonderful night.
Yep.
Yeah, we to explain that dangling we did a private fireworks cruise for a group of us. New Year's Eve on the 30th, they run the Fantasy in the Sky New Year's fireworks 2 nights, not just New Year's Eve, but also on the 30th, kind of a test run. And so at 11 p.m. or so, we got a private run around Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon. Our captain took us right on up to Discovery Island and up to River Country and shined the big floodlights onto some of the old decaying docks and some of the stuff inside River Country. So we got to see.
Very cool.
It was really cool.
That's really cool.
And then we anchored between the Polynesian and the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, and they shot off their perimeter fireworks. So we not only got to see them being shot off behind the Magic Kingdom, but right from the island in front of us, former home of the Wave Machine. They fire off some of the fireworks from there too. So we actually got to see the pyrotechnic crew going onto the island, which was kind of cool on a rubber raft. Remember that?
Yep. Yeah,
it's really neat.
And you mentioned the Wave Machine. For our listeners, sit tight. We're gonna catch a wave in March.
Oh, I can't wait
on that.
Yeah. Big excitement coming out. So, before we jump forward a little bit too much, though, we had some corrections and comments from last month. How you had something about Saltyhinder, right?
Oh yeah. So last month, this whole Captain Salty, whatever his name is, was a whole new thing to me. So,
and we should preface it that we did cut out the episode was running long, so we did cut out a discussion of what Captain Salty.
So long story short, John Hench was approached during the design phase of the Living Seas Pavilion, and Figment and Dreamfinder went over so well over at Imagination that United Technology said, "I need that for us too because that's so cool." So he sort of like angrily drew this picture of this strange seafaring guy and a mackerel, and came up with this character named Captain Saltyhinder, which rhymes with the Dreamfinder. And then he would have this little walk around. Yeah, so you could tell he really hated this whole thing. So Captain Saltyhinder and his like little friend Mackerel, who was going to be a puppet, much like the Figment puppet, and he scrawled a couple of these things on the side of a piece of paper and wrote, "Here we go again," because he was just so disgusted by the entire idea. So But I was calling him Captain Saltyhinder because I didn't get the hint that it was a butt joke. So that's perhaps John Hench's one butt joke that we know about.
That's right. There we go. Now, they didn't come up with, like, for Wonders of Life, there was never the health minder, right?
No.
Or no other
Wonders of
energy
Life
winder.
Energy winder.
An interesting story of how that came around too. So we will have to dive into that one day as well.
So it's a new year. We're going to do things in a little bit of a different order here. Normally we'd jump into the main topic, but we're going to try something different here where we're going to go right with the listener mail here. So JT, you ran out to the mailbag. It's I hope you put your coat on. It's a little cold, but
it's freezing here. Yes.
Yeah, the wind's whipping. What do you got?
Well, was that the last episode we brought up Howard Keel, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. And I think Hal was stumped on who Howard Keel was.
Like, who is Howard Keel?
Well, we got some I don't want to say connection to that, but a pretty good email here. Basically, it sounds like in the 50s, Disney set up with Howard Keel to do a movie adaptation of The Big Fisherman. You ever hear of that? I never have. Anyways, Walt wasn't a fan of the idea, but anyways, they made it, and I guess it was overshadowed by Ben-Hur. Nevertheless, though, the point of this is Disney distributed this film into the 70s. They showed it on during Easter, apparently, and that was where our email here thinks maybe that's where the connection was to Howard Keel, and maybe that's why he ended up in the parks at that time, like kind of a cross-promotional thing. So
interesting.
Yeah, and I can't tell this name, Matthias. I don't know, what is that? Yeah. Matthias Smith. That's the person who sent that. So thank you, Matthias, for the info.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks for writing in. Excellent. So how now you know who Keel is.
Finally.
Yeah.
Mystery solved.
That's right.
Yeah. If you have any other info you want to fill in the gaps for us, comments, questions, concerns, podcast at retrodisneyworld.com is how you reach us.
That would give us a shout out. We'd love to hear from you. So, okay. So we're going to, again, keeping with changing things up here, we're going to go into our audio rewind puzzler right here, the retro rewind. So last month was purposely a hint to this month's coming episode. And let's take a listen real quick to last month's puzzler. All right, well, if you guessed the music from Kitchen Cabaret in the ham and eggs portion of the show, which we're going to talk about, you got the correct answer. And this month's winner is April Adams. Congratulations, April.
Yay.
You'll be...
Hey, nice job, April.
So, April, congratulations. We'll be sending you one of the Main Street USA posters drawn by Chris Buckhull. So we'll be in touch with you to get that to you. Did any of you guys get how I know you had it the second you heard it.
I can hear that in my sleep.
Yeah, I purposely cut out the audio and made it repeat so that people would have to think about it. So I know, JT, you didn't get it. But
no clue. Yeah,
that's all right. Well,
and... I start getting the emailed answers because if you remember, we
right.
put out the finished show very quickly last time.
Right, it was a quick
and I did, the quality control copy I got didn't have any of that dropped in yet.
That's right. That's right.
So I heard it, but so I started getting all these emails with the answer before I ever heard the show.
That's because you live in the future.
That's right.
I do. Future world.
Yeah, he gets everything.
Jealous.
So, well, again, congratulations, April. So we have another one for this month, as always. So let's take a listen. Okay, so if you think you know the answer to this month's audio rewind, send your entries to podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. A random winner will be drawn from all correct entries and will receive this month's prize. Guys, what do we have to give away this month?
Well, this month we've got a collectible that has come from D23, the Disney Fan Club organization. In both 2012 and 2014, I attended their Faniversary events. They do these, so far they've done them every other year, and they travel around the country and do about an hour and a half long presentation about various anniversaries of things that occurred both for the company and in the parks. For an example, when we were around a couple years ago, it was Mary Poppins' anniversary. So it was 2014. So it was what was that, 40th anniversary, 50th anniversary of Mary Poppins, right?
Right.
50th, yeah. So they had the actual Julie Andrews hat, one of the hats from Mary Poppins that we all got to go see. We couldn't touch it, but you could get your picture taken next to it, and told stories about the production and things like that. Anyway, this month's prize are the commemorative pennants that they handed out to the individuals who attended those. So there was a limited number of them. I have both the 2012 and 2014 pennants, and the correct answerer, who is drawn from all entries this month, will receive both the 2012 and 2014
look at that.
23 Faniversary pennants.
Cool.
Nice.
Nice prize. Nice prize. So, if you think you know the answer to this month's Audio Rewind, send those entries to podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. Please submit your entries on or before February 15th, 2016. Now, all entries will be entered into the big prize drawing that will be coming out in December 2016. As you know, last month we gave away the big prize was a replica Paul Hartley map. And fantastic prize. And this year we're doing something different where every month in the podcast we're going to add to the prize pot. Now, last month, Hal, you added the first item to go into the pot was an orange bird item, right?
Yes, it's an orange bird yo-yo.
The orange bird yo-yo.
A professional model. Orange bird yo-yo.
Duncan.
Wow. Duncan.
It's not a Duncan, but it's another brand which I'm sure is as least as good as, if not better.
All right. Hal, you're adding the second prize again. So next month, one of us is going to have to add it. But what are you adding this month?
I'm going to add a vintage World of Motion souvenir guidebook.
Oh.
So when you went to World of Motion and you went through the motions and rode the ride and you got to the end and you went through Trans Center, on your way out, there was a big stand with brochures in it, and those brochures were these souvenir guidebooks, and they have great pictures of World of Motion inside and some information about the current vehicles. Like you could find out about the Riviera Coupe or the Century Limited Edition.
Does that have the streamlined car on the front? I forget the name of it.
Oh, the Aero 2000.
Aero 2000, yeah, right on the front there.
Sure,
Wow.
right. Yeah, that's
nice. All right, so
that's how they rolled.
That's right. So the prize pack so far is the Orange Bird Yo-Yo and the World of Motion brochure. So JT, jot all this down. We got to keep this prize pot.
List.
Yeah,
for
running
the next
list.
12 months.
It's going to grow every month. It's going to get bigger and bigger. So, all right.
It's going to culminate. It's like the 12 days of Christmas.
Right.
At the end of it, we're going to have you're going to get everything.
It's everything in the whole prize pack. This isn't 12 winners. This is something one person gets it all.
One person. That's going to be a sweet box in December. Is that going to go before Christmas, do we think?
Or I don't know. Maybe we can throw in overnight shipping at the end or 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Priority mail.
Yeah. Priority mail. We'll get it there.
It'll get there.
Or we'll just hand deliver it to your house.
If we live near you.
You can do that too, yeah.
And this is working the same way as the Paul Hartley map. Any entry counts towards the prize pot.
That's
like
right.
if you answer a wrong answer on the audio rewind, it doesn't matter.
Still get an entry.
Take a guess.
Okay.
Limit one per month per person.
That's right.
Sure.
All right. Well, with that, I think it's time to move on to the main topic, which, as the title of this month's episode is Veggie, Fruit. And as promised, we're taking you to the Kitchen Cabaret, which was at the Land Pavillion and Epcot Center for a number of years. Hal has been busy digging through archives and doing research, and I fondly remember going to this attraction. I enjoyed it.
As do I.
Yeah, multiple times. It was a really, really innovative. It was a great way to teach health to people, and this all predated the Wonders of Life, so there was a little bit of health consciousness added in there in the land. It was a perfect fit, and it was eventually turned into Food Rocks, and is now essentially part of the waiting area for Soarin'. And there's rumors.
Really? It's way down there?
Yeah, that's where it was. It was down when you go into Soaring. That was part of where the pre-show was and part of the theater. So I don't recall exactly how it is, but there's some diagrams out there. But how I think we're going to turn back the clocks a little bit before it was even open, and talk a little bit about what we got, and talk about the show and the fantastic score, fantastic lyrics.
Yeah,
take it away. Oh, there's so much to talk about. The curtain, even the curtain and the sign.
Yeah. So Kitchen Cabaret, as you said, Nestle was signed up. I'm sorry, Kraft was signed as a sponsor. There were many early ideas for the Land Pavilion, as we talked about in some of the prior episodes. There were these crystalline structures with different like biodomes or like different. Yeah.
And the hot air balloon ride.
Right, and the hot air balloon ride and all the stuff that Tony Baxter worked on, and that got sort of canned because it was just way too ambitious. And I think Kraft had a certain amount of money that they wanted to spend. I think it was $30 million, and then Disney was willing to put up $30 million. So whatever they built, it had to be $60 million.
Yeah, and originally the sponsor was going to be someone more focused on agribusiness or something like that before it moved to food.
Yeah, it was like a lumber company.
Yeah, something like that. And
so at some point then it shifted over to Kraft, so they knew they needed to tell more of a food story. But they wanted to keep the rest of the stuff some of the stuff that they talk about. So the idea of like the biodomes, but they obviously had to shift that a little bit to be more about food production. And I guess sometime we'll have to talk about the rest of that pavilion, like living with the land and symbiosis and that stuff
absolutely,
too. Yeah. So one of the things that I had never really realized before was that Rolly Crump was actually in charge of the Land Pavilion. It doesn't. There are some parts of it that kind of scream Rolly, like the original designs that were on the balloons that went up and down in the center, like looked very Rolly. But the rest of it is not. And
yes,
one
folks, those balloons used to go up and down.
Yes. And when they did go up and down at the right angle, they formed Mickey's head if you stood at the right spot. Did you guys know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you stood on the left or the right hand side, kind of at a corner to each side, when the balloons had hit a certain angle, when you're standing at a certain angle and they were at a certain elevation, they formed perfect Mickey head.
And then they would fight Voltron.
That's right. They all come together as a giant Mickey. And now they are ceased to move. So
yeah. But one of the reasons that it doesn't necessarily look like it's a Rolly Crump thing is because he had other people working with him on it. And he was actually quite happy to get teams together and just have them go off and do their thing and come back to him. But he actually wanted to be a little bit hands off and let the team just kind of run with it and see what they would do, which is a little different from some of the other folks that were a little bit more, I don't know, a little more ego driven and a bit more like, this is my vision and this is the only thing, like, it's got to be my thing. So Rolly was different. He was like, okay, go make something cool and come back and show it to me. So 3 Imagineers, who were relatively young at the time, were put in charge of Kitchen Cabaret. Jeff Burke, Scott Hennessy, and Steve Kirk. So Jeff Burke started as a figure finisher. He worked on the Country Bear Jamboree and America Sings, which kind of makes sense why he was put on another sort of like musical audio animatronic show. He had done those things and he was looking to try to get some design work under his belt. So he managed to get assigned to the project. And oddly enough, he has another connection to Epcot. So while he was working in the model shop, he was selected to be the Union brother in the Two Brothers sequence of the American Adventure.
Yes.
And they put him in a costume and took his picture and then eventually made an audio animatronic version of him. So when you see the American Adventure,
he's the brother that survived, right?
Yeah. Right. He's the non-dead brother.
Yes.
So that's Jeff Burke. On the show writing side was a guy named Scott Hennessy. So he wrote the script and also the lyrics to the show. He also wrote the script for Body Wars and another couple of attractions. And Buddy Baker wrote the music. So that's 2, and then Buddy Baker's kind of like the extra. But I do want to take a second and say just what a magnificent job Buddy Baker did with the scoring.
Oh, yes,
absolutely. Fantastic.
There's like 8 or 9 different styles of music going on, and this guy was just an amazing workhorse for Disney. I mean, you could say like, okay, make me one of these things, go. I need a Ziegfeld Follies number. I need a, he did everything from like Herbie and like a whole bunch of other attractions at Disney, like the Magic Carpet Around the World, and like you could basically ask him to do something and he would be able to turn around and do the style perfectly. And I believe he wrote his own arrangements too. So it's like, what a talent, just what a massive talent. The character designs were done by a guy named Steve Kirk. So he was an illustrator and sculptor. He started as a show designer, and he was actually the guy that did the design for the Abominable Snowman in the Matterhorn. That was his first project with Disney. He also did one of that original concept of Dreamfinder and Figment when it was supposed to be in Fantasyland. So when you've seen that like weird sort of bulbous looking one with the green dragon that eventually became Dreamfinder and Figment, that was him. And he also designed the Dreamcatcher vehicle inside of Journey into Imagination. So
now with the design, what we're going to get into a little bit more of the characters, and as we're going to talk about their anthropomorphic, but I'm wondering, the whole show really reminded me. I'm wondering if they drew any design concepts. If you remember back on Sesame Street, there was a skit called "Here Is Your Life," which was a takeoff on "This Is Your Life," and they had corn that would talk, the bread. They would have toothbrushes with eyes and toothpaste, and it's very, very similar style, and just curious. It'd be a great question if we could find out if any of that was. There was Corny the Corn and the bread and all these.
Well, what is kind of interesting is so when they got the assignment to do that attraction, they had no preconceived notions about what it would look like. They actually brainstormed for a long time. Okay, we're in Epcot. It's very futuristic. Should this be in space?
Right.
What's the location? And what they finally kind of arrived was they looked at some different time periods, and they felt like the Art Deco time period and that style was very futuristic, very modern for that time period. So they thought that would actually make a nice fit with Epcot. So it was as futuristic as it could be at that point. Kraft Foods also had a really long history of sponsoring music programs. They actually had a radio show that ran from, I'm trying to see. They had a show called the Kraft Music Hall that ran on radio from 1923 to 1949, and then on television from 1959 to 1971. So the designers felt like doing a musical thing would be perfect for Kraft. So that's why it ended up as a musical show rather than like something else. But they may have seen that. And actually there is another interesting story around that. You talk about the character design. So
yeah.
So Raleigh just kind of let them go do their thing, and he would kind of check up on them and give them a little guidance. Well, apparently it got to the point where they were building models for it, and John Hench came into the model shop and took a look at the models and had a fit because he felt that they did not look Disney enough. He just went off he started screaming and yelling, and Rowley basically said, look, okay, remember this little movie that we made called Whistle Toot Plunk and Boom that didn't look anything like a Disney movie and won an Oscar?
Yeah, it was totally fabulous and
yeah,
amazing.
And apparently that pissed off John Hench so much that he like turned around and left and never came back again to like look at the show.
Oh man. So
there was a little controversy about the design, but if you think, I cannot think of anything more Disney than a bunch of anamorphic vegetables with eyes. Oh, like what about that is not Disney at all?
I think the only one that maybe I could see is the host, Bon Appetit.
Yeah.
She did have a very different look that was, I don't even know what category to put her in, because there was really no other character that I can recall that was similar to her.
Yeah, I mean, she was humanoid, but
cartoonish character. Yeah, exactly. Characteristic.
Yeah. So, but one of the very cool things I think about the design was that to me, those characters really looked like they fit in that sort of 1930s, 1940s world. You know, they were kind of designed retro to fit that feel, and if you look
even the props though, when they're singing on the radio, the microphone's got the call sign around it, and he's holding on to it. Just exude that.
Yeah, the design of the overall thing is perfect. Like the colors, it's like everything is actually like right in period, right in style. And if you have not seen pictures of this, try to find some stills, because the set design was just wonderful. There's like a huge stove on one side. There's cupboards, a refrigerator, baskets of fruit that would later turn around and start singing. It was really, really exceptionally well done.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff was so well hidden that you didn't know when things were going to happen, as we're going to talk about as we go through the show.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It did a really good job doing reveals as each new act came on. So as you mentioned, the premise of the show was to educate guests about good nutrition. And at the time, the way that we talked about nutrition was totally different than the way we talk about it today. So today we're very accustomed to this idea of the food pyramid and low carbs and all these different types of things. But back then, from 1956 to 1992, the way that the USDA talked about nutrition was the 4 basic food groups. So
what are they, Brian? Come on, here's a quiz time, guys. What are they?
Why are you asking me?
It sounds like you got your mouth full, too.
Grains.
Proteins, yeah.
Proteins.
Fruits,
sugar,
vegetables.
Candy cane, candy corn.
Candy corn and maple syrup, right?
We elves try to stick to the 4 main food groups: candy, candy canes, candy corns, and syrup.
You're missing an important one, JT. So you've got your grains.
Yeah.
You got
Fruits and vegetables.
Fruits and vegetables. You're missing one, an important one.
Dairy.
There we go. There's the 4 food group.
So the premise was built around trying to educate people about the concept of the 4 basic food groups, and then also the idea of eating things in moderation. So in the lyrics you hear balance and things used a lot because they're trying to get that across. And Kraft felt very good about that message, and they were really doing a service to everybody by having that message out there. So you go into the Land Pavillion, you head down the stairs or the escalator, and as I said, it's kind of where Soren is now. So you would walk in the front door, and there were kind of 2 rooms that you would go through before you got into the show itself. So in the first room, it was just kind of walls, very simple, but they had custom-made posters on the walls for the different acts that were going to be in the show that you saw.
Very similar to Muppet Vision.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was the posters themselves were like a little bit more abstract. They weren't actually like drawn renderings of the characters. Like for Ham and Eggs, it was actually like this very interesting perspective, like stovetop with like an actual like sliced like cooking ham and cooking eggs on it. So it was all done in that period style, in that Art Deco style, and they were really, really gorgeous posters. And
I don't
then
know if there's any pictures that exist of the pre-show. I can't even find any video of it. I don't recall what it looked like. Well, as a matter of fact, how you're gonna take us? So before the show closed, I went in and I took pictures of all of the pre-show rooms and all of the posters and everything from top to bottom. So I'm going to get those out and get them scanned. So hopefully by the time that you're hearing this, it's like this is already on the Retro Disney website, and you can see all this stuff. We owe you one, how?
Because at the time we knew that the ride was going to close and we had a closing date, so I was actually able to go for a good 2-3 weeks before it was shut down, and went on the last day and took videotapes from about 7 or 8 different angles where I just held it in one position. And so I have a huge amount of stuff to...
He's going to create his own Circle Vision 360 attraction.
Yeah.
Retro 360.
And I also did digital audio recordings of the music in the 2 pre-show rooms, of the show itself with spread stereo mics, and then also the exit hallway, which basically played like a karaoke version of the entire show. So all of that is going to be available to everyone. So after you got done with the first pre-show room, which was rarely filled, maybe on the very busiest day, you wouldn't be able to walk through this room. But it was basically built where if you had an exceedingly busy day and the waiting area in front of the doors to get into the theater were filled, it's like they could hold you in this room. There was sort of a portal in the wall with a digital counter. And they could put a rope across that on a stanchion if they needed to keep it separated. So you walk through that room, and you go to the second room, and the second waiting room was done like a nighttime outdoor scene. And it was really, really, again, really exceptionally well done. They were like little tiny scaled buildings. So like, let's say the walls were 15 feet tall. There were different sort of like these sort of extruded front different businesses. Like there was a palm reader and a diner and a fruit stand along the back sides. And I remember there was this one little spot that looked like a sort of like a tunnel, like a bridge tunnel in the wall, and you could look to the side of that and see like a car parked down the street, like waiting, like a big fancy Paracero or some kind of car, like the front of it sticking out. And then on the side where you would wait, there was an exterior of a theater, kind of like what you see inside today at the Great Movie Ride when you're going to get into there, which is what a typical theater from that era looked like. If you grew up in the 70s, you might have had a movie theater or a theater still around in your town that still looked like this. And then to the left of the like 4 doors, there was a stage door a fake door that said stage door with like 2 or 3 steps up, and that's where the cast member would stand to do the intro. Spotlight would come on, and they would give the intro before you went into the show. But it was a really cool atmosphere. Again, it was very cute, very charming, very high quality, awesome. So then when it was time to go in, you would walk into the main theater and get a seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kraft proudly presents a show that has the whole town cooking. The Kitchen Cabaret.
It was quite large.
How many did it seat total?
That's a good couple hundred at least.
Yeah.
I would say. It was 10, 11, 12 rows maybe.
Okay.
20, 25 across perhaps. Sizable. At the time, at the beginning of Epcot's life in 82 or 83, it's like the theater would be packed.
Right. Oh, yeah. I remember going in. You'd have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that last day, I probably sat through the show 4, 5, 6 times on the last day, and there were a couple of them where I was literally the only person in the theater. So,
in today's era, there would be a group of 50 people sitting through every show the final day, tweeting and Facebook statusing each showing. Next to last show, here's what's going on.
Yeah, it was very, very. Times were different then.
Back then, it was just how.
Yeah, it's just me and my recorders. But the stage was quite large. There was a large there was a curtain across it that had the Kraft logo on it, and then later on,
kind of silvery blue too.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah,
sparkly. The logo is sparkly.
Yep.
Later on, when Kraft got bought out and merged with General Foods, it got changed to say Kraft General Foods. And then for the brief period of time when Nestle ran it, because it did survive at least for a few months after Nestle bought it out, and they hadn't had time to change to Food Rocks yet, there was a Nestle logo up there. And you could see up at the top, there was a lot of neon. There were like 2 giant coffee pots, like percolators up on the top with the logo in neon. It was, again, you walk in and it's very charming. It's like you could tell already you were in for something special. So the curtains would part and you would be introduced to your hostess, who is named Bonnie Appetit.
Here's your hostess, Bonnie Appetit.
And she appears to try to describe the theater to you. So the show was very much in line with like Country Bear Jamboree, where there was a main stage and there were several areas on the stage where characters could appear and disappear. And then there were also 2, I don't know, is there a technical term? Like a proscenium, some sort of like side theater.
Yeah, I don't know what the term is. It was because they would have a couple scenes in there that would rotate and change out. Yeah.
So
and I think only Bonnie appeared on those, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So like in the Country Bear Jamboree, where Henry would be on the side in a separate area, there were 2 of those on either side of the stage, and then the stage itself. So she would appear. She starts off singing a song called the Mealtime Blues, which is it's a blues number.
Oh dear, it's time for another meal. Yes, there are days when I feel downcast and get the mealtime blues. If I don't plan a proper meal, my menu will be bad news. All the mealtime blues can get you every time you dine. But we all can beat that rat and end up feeling fine. So on those days when we feel
and it just sort of sets up the premise of there are I could probably sing it for you easier than I can describe it. Just basically trying to get people the idea of if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to cook, it's like she's going to give you some suggestions, and then that leads off into the main show.
the show is prepared. Let me serve it on up to you.
And the first act that comes up are the kitchen crackpots.
Okay, crackpots, let's get cooking!
Which are salsa, playing piano, and I've seen a lot of debate online about who this guy was, but I have actual confirmation that he was supposed to be salsa. There was a mustard bottle, squeeze bottle, who was playing a straw saxophone, a Parmesan cheese can,
which looked just like the Kraft Parmesan cheese can
absolutely.
too. Yeah, this is the green can you all grew up with.
Except with eyes and nose and a mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And even the mustard looked kind of like the Kraft, Kraft mustard guy.
Chase the blues away.
So he had a banjo made from measuring cup, and then there was barbecue sauce that was playing a whisk like a electric bass.
And don't forget, folks, the Kraft products were also what is sold in the restaurant upstairs. When you were served, I remember being served Kraft barbecue sauce when we were up there. What was it called back then?
The Good Turn.
The
Good Turn restaurant. Yeah, it hasn't changed. Yeah.
So this was the conceit to Kraft. So the rest of the show is all fruits and vegetables and breads and cereals, not Kraft products. But they actually, in this thing, by doing condiments, they actually managed to work in the actual Kraft products and get them in front of people. And we got a tweet earlier that someone asked about they showed an earlier version of the show, some sketches at Epcot 30, where Bonnie had a sort of a counterpart. So there was the secondary character that they had brainstormed using called Juicy Lucy, who would have instead of having actual fruit, she would have been sort of a Carmen Miranda exotic type, and she would have risen up and the fruit would have been on her head. She was tossed to the side as something they didn't want to go for. In that original concept, they had Bonnie on the stage, center stage, rather than off to the side, at least for part of it. So I think what they did is they decided to move her off, got rid of her, moved Bonnie to the side, and then they were able to bring in the condiments and put them dead center. So that's how they kind of arrived at that. So these guys were called the Kitchen Crackpots. Their animation was pretty simple. It's like the mustard would spin. Some of them would have back and forth music. The piano player, his hands would move, but his eyes and his mouth were fixed. But they were very appealing characters. They do
and they were only on these little segments that Hal's talking about are really quick, so you didn't need really, really in-depth stuff. And the focus of that song was Bonnie actually singing, so they were kind of like complimentary to her. She was still the focus on that song.
Right. Yeah. She was literally doing an intro to the show with that song.
And she had a costume change too, don't forget.
Yes. She goes she starts out as a sort of, I guess, would be a typical housewife outfit, blouse.
Polka dot.
Yeah.
Her hair's not done. Yeah.
Yeah. She's kind of like leaning on these like giant cookbooks, which she's built around.
Hal left that one detail about Juicy Lucy's being ejected from the attraction, they put a wedding ring on the finger of Bonnie Appetit because it was a family attraction.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's one of the things they decided to do when it went from 2 women to 1. They decided to make her a homemaker.
Late 70s, early.
They didn't want Laverne and Shirley, I guess.
That's
They wanted you to get Mrs. Cunningham, not Laverne and Shirley.
That's actually an interesting observation.
Not to mention that the name is terrible. It's really not a good name.
Well, apparently it's also the name of some kind of hamburger, which you can order at Disney.
Really?
In several restaurants.
Because the Juicy Lucy is a hamburger from Minnesota that is stuffed with cheese.
Yeah, I was doing some research and I found it on the menu of several Disney restaurants. In case you want to chase
hamburger
that
right now.
Yeah, actually, that sounds good.
Go for a Juicy Lucy.
We got to do one of these from a place where they serve hamburgers.
We should do a hamburger.
We're going to talk about this right now.
Oh, and I kept calling it a ragtime number. It's a Dixieland number. It's really a Dixieland jazz number. It's not so much ragtime. So that's the opening number with the kitchen crackpots. She sort of sings an overview. Literally, she sings an overview of all the different things that she's going to talk about. Oh, and one of the things I did not get to mention is it's one of the few attractions. Talking about Buddy Baker again. He actually wrote an overture that you hear as you're walking into the theater to sit down and getting seated that uses all of the songs that you will hear later on. So as a true overture, like when you would go sit down and see like the Sound of Music in the theater and you got that little flavor, or if you go see a Broadway show today and you hear a little snippet of all of the songs before you watch it, so you're kind of familiar with them. He actually did that again, just absolutely out of the park, brilliant. So that's the first song. So after the kitchen crackpots go off, the next people that we meet are the stars of the Milky Way, which represents the dairy group.
Now, let's get things started with a real chilling act. Say hello to my friends, Mr. Dairy Goods and his stars of the Milky Way.
It's time to meet some beauties at this our rendezvous. We all come from the dairy with moving words for you.
And this is a Ziegfeld Follies kind of number. The Ziegfeld Follies was a stage show, which also ended up as a movie. And one of the things that it was very famous for were its lovely ladies. So they took this concept and turned each one of the things that they focus on in the milk group into sort of a female. It sounds so weird to describe it.
Yes.
Into embodiments of. So you have Miss Cheese, Miss Yogurt, and Miss Ice Cream, and they are introduced by a crooner named Dairy Goods, who sings into one of those large circular microphones at like a radio show, and it says KOW as the call letters for the station in front of that. So he proceeds to do a song about the three ladies and goes in order and tells you a little bit about them, and it's always been one of my favorite things. He's got that very typical old style singer.
Now you have met my beauties, I think you will agree. These girls have such style and taste that's heavenly.
Got the eyebrows going. And
the animation on this guy was.
He's unbelievable because they used almost like a soft foam covering, so he didn't act like a stiff milk carton. He bended and moved, and
it was all fabric.
Yeah,
his body was fabric, and then his mouth would open and close. He had very expressive eyes and eyebrows, especially. He would do this one great take when the sort of the Eartha Kitt ice cream character would say, "And I've got a double scoop for you," he would do this reaction where he would kind of make his eyes go really big, like like he was shocked, and the audience would always crack up every time he did that. Miss Cheese was kind of a Zsa Zsa Gabor type. I'm sorry, no, strike that. I'm totally wrong. Miss Cheese was a Mae West style character, and then Miss Yogurt was French, sort of a coquette, and then Miss Ice Cream. To me, I've seen people say Pearl Bailey, which I don't get. To me, she's Eartha Kitt. She's Eartha Kitt as Ice Cream. I know it's a little out of era, but it's really the only thing that makes sense to me.
And these were pretty big too. I think they're about 3 feet to 4 feet tall. I mean, they're pretty sizable animatronics too.
Oh, I'd say they're, in order to be, I would guess they're
Maybe
probably
larger.
closer to 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
In order to be seen, that distance, even when they do humans, like when Abe Lincoln in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, he's actually larger than life size because he would seem very tiny on the stage.
There's some pictures in circulation of them, like the Imagineers working on the characters, and they're 3-4 feet tall. I mean, they're very tall.
Yeah.
There's actually a picture of Mr. Milk or whatever his name is. He looks about 4 or 5, somewhere in there. He's quite dilapidated now. Yeah. I remember there's an early picture of them, I think, working on the stove, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And it was huge.
Oh, the
stove is massive.
Enormous.
Yeah.
So that's Dairy Goods. They go through the dairy. And then next is the breads and cereals group.
And now, direct from the silos of the Midwest, the Cereal Sisters.
We like to sing about a friend who has really come far. He started with some dough and then he rose to be a star. He is hot when he leads the bread and cereal group. An oven-right trooper, he can never be duped. It's known that he's no clown. A boogie-woogie bakery boy, the bread with a sound.
Is a song called The Boogie Woogie Bakery Boy, which is based on
the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company C.
There we go. So it's a straight up Andrew Sisters song, and they actually, so it's a bucket of oats, a box of rice, and another box of corn, and these characters actually have names. It's Rennie Rice, Connie Corn, and Mare's Eat Oats. So that's where they came from, and then. The other character in there is a piece of bread that plays trumpet, who is referred to later on in the song as the toast of the town, because when he starts out, he's just a piece of bread. And then at some point, he moves from his current location above the girls in a cupboard, and there's a large toaster sitting on the counter, and then he actually turns into toast and pops out of the toaster. And that's his big finish.
And Bonnie Appetit says she wants to jam with him.
Yeah, she wants to have a jam session.
We should mention, by the way, the Bonnie Appetit animatronic. I mean, it does not look like any other person animatronic you've ever seen. I mean, it's so interesting, and it's almost like what would you say, almost like 50s advertising art. Or something like that. Yeah. Like she does not. They did not try to make her look like Abe Lincoln or John F. Kennedy or any of those types of animatronics that we're used to seeing. So that really stands out when you watch the footage of the attraction now.
She has very, very large eyes.
Yeah,
like a very large head, very large eyes.
That's probably the only signature Disney thing about her.
Yeah. Oddly enough, now there's a couple of weird stories. I'll go on aside for a minute. There's a couple of interesting stories about her. So supposedly, you know how all animatronics have like an A mode when they're turned on, and then like a B mode where if the power should get cut, they kind of like collapse on themselves. So that way, you don't hurt anybody. Apparently in her B mode, her hands would kind of head down towards her crotch area, which I think offended some people. But that's just kind of how that figure went. But one of the weird things was I went on a Innovations in Action tour, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And as part of that tour all around property, you get to go to central shops. And they actually have a Bonnie Appetit figure set up in central shops with hydraulics and pneumatics on it, and you can control her a little bit. It's done as like a little demo thing. Her costume is pretty much stripped off. A lot of her skin is gone. You can see her internals working. But one of the figures at least ended up there. And if you take that tour, you might still be able to see, the rotting corpse of Bonnie Appetit still. All right, so breads and cereals. They do the joke, and then they're interrupted by a vaudeville act, Mr. Ham and Mr. Eggs.
I think I'll get together with the toast of the town for a jam session.
Now mind your manners, son. Don't forget, we're a team.
Sorry, fellas. Well, here they are. A real hot act to have come to us from a successful tour of the breakfast circuit. Those breakfast buddies, Ham and Eggs.
Home, home on the range, in the pan with the butter.
That song, the one we rehearsed.
Oh.
Who was the subject of our audio rewind.
Yeah, let's let them introduce themselves.
Yeah.
As members of the meat group, we would like to sing this song.
And cook you up some ditties as we're singing right along.
At meals, our act is very key.
We're chock full of protein.
The meat group can help you keep strong. Now we'll really beef up this act.
Speaking of meat, let's tell them what happened down at the chicken coop, eh?
So as I said, this is supposed to be very typical of a vaudeville act. The comedic group. Mr. Ham is sort of like the fat one, and then Mr. Eggs is sort of the tall, skinny one, sort of your Laurel and Hardy. It's like that very typical comedy team, physical setup at the time. And they tell jokes back and forth. And they also have a device in the theater, which you've seen the Country Bear Jamboree. And if you remember the old Golden Horseshoe and Diamond Horseshoe Review, they have the gag set up where there's a projector that's actually putting up slides behind them as they do their routine. So much like the Three Sunbonnets, where they have the illustrations playing behind them as they sing the song, it's like they would also have illustrations in here, and they would tell some jokes and then tell some stories to try to get the idea of protein through. So the first one is probably the most memorable one.
A hungry fox boldly walking through a henhouse door.
Too bad for him. He met a hen who stood at 6'4".
He won't forget the licking
he got from that big chicken.
Now he gets his poultry from the store.
And they have pictures that go along with these things. So there's two gags like that, and they have another one about a fish who cuts class, doesn't go to school, and then he ends up getting caught and then cooked.
One more joke like that and we'll get the hook.
Hook? Say, that reminds me. What about the fish story?
A school of fish grew tired of a bragging big mouth bass.
Why get straight A's, he used to say, and so he would cut class.
Oh, he should have stayed in school.
A wine made him a fool. Now there's a test he did not pass.
And they go over some of the other great sources of protein, like beans and cheese, because they get into a little fight, and then Ham says that he could work with other protein acts just as easily as Mr. Eggs. But they come up on this. The great thing about this section is there's a giant stove, as Todd was talking about, off to the right, with pans on them. And the two characters rise up out of the pans, and they have smoke that's billowing out of it as they do their entrance and exit.
Fire underneath the electric stove. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really well done.
The dials on there. Yeah. Did Eggs remind you of that guy from there was that 70s and 80s PSA where this egg type guy with a top hat with very skinny legs would run around and talking about good nutrition and making popsicles?
The guy that made it with wagon wheels, the
Time for
cheese guy.
Tucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look a lot like him, don't they?
That is, yeah. A
little earlier than Eggs, but
yeah.
When my get up and go has got up and went, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When I'm dancing, I hold down and my boots kind of slow down, or anytime I'm weak in the knees. I hanker for a hunk of, a slab or slice and chunk of, a snacker that is a winner, and yet won't spoil my dinner. I hanker for a hunk of cheese. Yahoo!
After Ham and Eggs retreat back into the stove, comes what's probably the highlight of the show.
Everybody's favorite
episode. Literally, it's like I would talk to cousins who had come to Epcot with or without us. 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they would talk about Veggie, Veggie, Fruit, Fruit, and at least be able to sing the chorus.
Veggie, fruit, fruit, veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit. Veggie, fruit, fruit, veggie, veggie, fruit.
I simply have to tell you that my friends who are singing are delectable. Meals are divine as long as you can dine with fruit and vegetables.
It was so memorable.
It was done so well because the music would start so softly. And
there was almost a
lights. They'd slowly rise out.
It would start like an Arthur Lyman, like Hawaiian Sunset type of start. And then it moves into it's like a samba or something, isn't it?
Yeah. It's and there's like the sound of crickets.
Yep.
That kind of comes up as the music happens. It's very atmospheric. It's again, Buddy Baker, so well done.
And just the whole setting of that whole crop of vegetables that comes out, centered by the broccoli, just singing to you. It's just it's fantastic.
So now, compared to some of these other things where you've not seen these characters during the course of the show and they just kind of pop up, there has been a bowl of fruit and a colander filled with vegetables that have been sitting out the entire time. And as the song starts, these two things rotate, and then you see that they have faces and they're actually animated. The vegetables are all dressed kind of like, I guess, sort of like Xavier Cugat, and the sort of the Latin bands where they've got the big, floofy arm things.
Puffy shirts.
Yeah, the big puffy shirts with the puff. The only way I could describe it is you'd have to go back and look at what bands wore, Latin bands wore in these times. The one guy is playing like a huge marimba made out of carrots. And then the broccoli, the broccoli guy is playing the carrot marimba. He has on a pair of glasses that look kind of like the 3D glasses from Captain EO, oddly enough.
Yeah, they did. They did.
So I don't know what the connection there was.
Yeah.
And then when he would say cha-cha-cha, the glasses would actually flip up and reveal his eyes just for a moment, which is like this one little cute part of the entire thing. And then the fruit was in a basket over in the side. And they basically do this Latin number, veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit, and talk about fruits and vegetables. And as they get to the last part of the song, Bon Appetit comes out of the ceiling on a half moon, sort of dressed in a Carmen Miranda dress. I mean, at this point, this thing is going like way over the top.
Yeah, it's a production number at this point.
It's a huge production number. And as she starts singing about fireworks, suddenly in the kitchen window behind the broccoli, these fiber optic fireworks, which they had kind of pioneered at Epcot that you saw in the Mexico Pavilion. Today you can still see those. And a couple of these fiber optic fireworks go off. It's just one thing on top of another on top of another. It's just so cool. And the lights go down because it's like nighttime. You got the fireworks. You got this music. It was really, really good. And then when that number's over, she kind of does a wrap-up number where she just kind of goes back over and each one of the characters kind of reiterate their food group and just kind of like the most important fact that you need to know about it. And then show's over and you're off into the exit room and off to something else.
Now, sadly, Kitchen Cabaret became Food Rocks.
That
should be Food Rots. It was horrible. It was in the early 90s.
Not good or different or what?
It was...
So,
yeah.
As we said,
this production number was just so fabulous that anything that they would have followed it up with would have never lived up to what Kitchen Cabaret was.
It would have been exceedingly difficult, probably, to top this. And it had to change, not just because Nestle came in as the sponsor versus Kraft, but because by that time the USDA had completely rewritten the educational system about food, and it was no longer the 4 basic food groups. It moved to the food pyramid.
Right. So it would have been completely out of whack with what you would have done a lot to the show.
More harm than good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just basically the data, the science wasn't there anymore to support the show. So they had to change it. And in fact, did go back to Rolly Crump again, and he got another group of people to work on stuff. They felt like they were happy with the show when they put it out, but as you said, Todd, there's no comparison.
No. And Food Rocks was such an abysmal disaster it didn't even have funhouse quality animatronics. Some of them were so poor. It was no more than cardboard cutouts painted with plastic, moving and repetitious. It's terrible.
So one of the things that they did to save money, because they had a limited budget, is they had to keep all of the actions that were previously on the figures and just basically kind of reuse them. So, if the stage went up and down at one point, or if something turned, it's like that's all it could do. They basically didn't do any kind of new animation to match. They had to use all the equipment that was there.
Right.
Try to save money. And as you said, they didn't do full sculpts of any of the characters. They did sort of like half sculpts where the backs were flat and then they were kind of like sculpted out from that.
You went from Bonnie Appetit to a nutrition label as your host. You went through this 3D figure, basically a piece of fabric with a mouth,
and Tone Loc at that.
And Tone Loc,
as food wrapper.
FUD wrapper.
FUD.
It gets no worse than this. Really, guys. This is low.
They some of the cases that they were able to get
Peach Boys
original, like they had the Beach Boys were the Peach Boys, and they did
Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel,
like that's Neil Musaka.
You know what they were trying to go for, but the execution.
Well, really, they were taking you from like 70s variety show, which was Kitchen Cabaret, to like VH1. Like, that was really what they were. They were trying to give you a broad, acceptable cross spectrum of popular acts or semi-popular acts of the day.
Yeah, the feeling was the 40 stuff was too old. It was no longer relatable. It's like they needed to do something that was current and modern. And then, of course, what happens when you do something current and modern is it actually goes out of date even faster than if you had just done something old. And to me, one of the ironic things about the show is the bad guys of the show, the junk food. I think they had the best song out of everybody.
Yeah, right.
so in some ways, it's like I was always really rooting for them more so than like the good nutritional stuff.
So I don't know if I told you guys or you saw the article a number of years ago I wrote, but I went up to Storyland in Glen, New Hampshire. For those of you that don't know, it's a family-owned amusement park. Storyland's it's a smaller theme park with smaller rides geared for children. But I went up there and they were selling Dole Whip. I was excited, but I also came across this, guys. I'm gonna send you this link. This is Kitchen Cabaret in a nightmare, reincarnated in basically a trailer that they could drag through the theme park. But the uncanny resemblance to some of the characters is unbelievable. And not only Kitchen Cabaret, but the chicken looked like from the Muppets and the cow looks like it's from Sesame Street. But the bananas, the corn, I mean, you tell me, rip-off or what? Broccoli is the biggest rip-off I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. The broccoli looks like the Great Gazoo. Hey, dum-dum.
We'll post a link to this article that I had taken. So
one of the things that I probably should mention is so this was considered like probably because it was the most Disney thing like at Epcot, as far as it wasn't stuffy and educational, like it was really fun. It's like there was a ton of merchandise that was made for this.
That's right. Remember the shop after was fantastic.
Right. Broccoli and Company, the store like right outside.
Yep.
So yeah, you could get stuffed versions of Mr. Broccoli and the tomato and the eggplant.
Which go for a premium on eBay these days, like $50 a piece in new condition, sometimes even more than that.
It's amazing.
They had placemats, cups. There were ceramic salt and pepper shakers of the Cereal Sisters. There was a ceramic creamer shaped like dairy goods.
Cookie jar. There was
cookie jar.
Plush Mr. Tomato, I see.
You could also buy things that weren't associated with the attraction. So remember, they had seedlings. You could buy small trees, giant sequoia seeds. Everything was related to the land and listen to the land and growing things. I remember all sorts of giant tomato seeds or something like that.
Yeah, but like I've had a couple of placemats and some of the dish towels and things over the years.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really very appealing characters. Great show. Sad to see it go. And today, as we talked about at the top, it's all of this has been replaced by Soarin', but there is still part of the stage that lives behind one of the walls because the way that the stuff got configured, they just kind of walled up where they could, and as is the standard practice now, if it doesn't need to be removed, it's not removed. So part of that Food Rocks Kitchen Cabaret stage is still hiding behind a wall.
That's right.
At Soarin', and I don't know, maybe they'll have to reconfigure it again now that they're going to 3 theaters, but it's still
there's
hanging out there.
Yeah, there's a couple pictures out there from it. Just strange that they just wall it off and not use it.
There's pictures of the stage being walled off?
No, of it walled off. Yeah, you could basically
Really?
animatronics have been ripped out. Yeah, it's.
You have to send me a link to one of them pictures. I'd like to see that.
I'll get them up for you. So yeah, definitely really, really interesting. And it's not from, it's from what was left of Food Rocks, but there certainly is elements. In fact, the refrigerator didn't move. They just kind of repainted the refrigerator, kind of changed the door and made it look kind of funky.
Yeah, they changed. It was done. The style of the show was done with this weird off perspective stuff. I mean, like purposely, it was all just kind of thrown out of perspective, kind of like Ren and Stimpy or something at the time. So, yeah, and the set didn't really integrate with the characters. They kind of had the characters were a little bit more appealing, but there's not everything really matched so well.
So there you have it, folks. The history of Kitchen Cabaret, sorely missed. I remember many times watching that show, and we will take you back, as Hal said, to the rest of the Land Pavillion in a future episode. We've got Listen to the Land and Symbiosis, as Hal said. We'll talk about the food court that used to be there, and the fountain, and all the balloons, and all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, I recently saw a picture of the fountain, and they had like fresh flowers like up at the top of it.
Oh, really?
And that weird, which I had never seen flowers there before.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by that.
All right, well, it's time to move on to our T-shirts and merchandise, as always, at retrodisneyworld.com/support us. Actually, as Hal said, we've got the Captain Saltyhinder shirt that is up that you can take a look. But we have a new one this month, right, Hal? This is something that I think our true followers have been waiting for.
I'm so excited to be able to do this because I know this is something that's.
Drum roll,
I think people have actually asked for this.
Yeah, yeah, I think they have asked.
It was finally time to do it. So finally we have a Roy's Cabin T-shirt for you guys to.
Exactly, rustic accommodations.
That's
perfectly set up. I think this is one that's going to stay there for a while. This is kind of one of our little things. So
yeah, this is going to be an evergreen.
Exactly,
as they say.
That's set there. So if you'd like to get your own Roy's Cabin T-shirt, sticker, notebook, JT setting up all that merchandise, head over to retrodisneyworld.com/support us, and appreciate you helping us out.
Hey Todd, where does that money go when we sell these T-shirts? What do we do with that? Because I'm not getting a cut of this, so I'm just wondering.
Oh, you're not getting the cut yet?
No, I'm not. I'm not getting any checks. So I'm wondering where this all goes
stored in a secret offshore bank, and will be. It is being reserved
on Discovery Island.
Yes, there'll be a treasure map produced someday, yes. And that money will be well spent. Once we host one of our events. So that's
okay. I didn't know if we were buying films and things with this, or
we have used some of it to help support some of the films.
And we're obviously paying for the nuts and bolts of like keeping the podcast running.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's you're this is basically how you keep us on the air every month. Let us go out and get new films, and as you say, it's like when we go to put on an event, it's like this is the stuff that helps fund that. So
got it.
It actually all goes back to you.
That's right. It all comes back to our listeners. So we enjoy doing it, and any support we can get, it's awesome.
I'd like some Roy's Cabin, like stationery, like you stayed
like a
there.
Pen set. We can make a pen set.
That'd be cool.
That pen and
totally
paper.
doable.
Yeah, that's.
I want to rock one of these at Fort Wilderness though, just because it, roughly in the area, just a photo.
It was right there on the left as you come off.
Yeah, right as you come off the dock.
Yeah, it's right there.
Boom. That's awesome.
All right. So we do have a film. Speaking of how I was talking about the film, we do have a one to discuss this week. While the guys queue it up, I'll talk a little bit about it. As you may recall, we had the Magic of Walt Disney World that we restored, which was a 16 millimeter print. We did receive 2 other films when we purchased that lot, and we've got one of them transferred and completed. And this one is from 1980. It's called the Magic Kingdom Club 1980 Update. Now, for those of you don't know what the Magic Kingdom Club, it originally started in 1957 as a way to promote Disneyland. It was given out as a benefit to corporations and companies in the Los Angeles area to not only entice visitors, but also to help promote it. And as Walt Disney World came to be, it became a little bit less of an exclusive club, but Walt Disney World was added. You could become a member of the Magic Kingdom Club just by buying, a share of Disney stock. But what did it get you? It included discounts on their tickets, vacation packages. When the Disney stores came out in the 80s, you could get, I think it was maybe 10% off your purchases. And you could also utilize their services in the early years to help you travel to other far-off destinations. And when it was at its peak, there were over 6 million members. I remember my grandfather purposely bought 1 share of stock, not only to get the nice stock certificate that you would receive, but also to be entered, to get into the Magic Kingdom Club.
Did they have a lounge in the Magic Kingdom too? So there was a AAA lounge in the Magic Kingdom in Tomorrowland. To the right of the Carousel of Progress. So kind of where Buzz Lightyear takes his pictures now, poses for pictures between Space Ranger Spin and Carousel of Progress. There was I guess was originally a sponsors lounge for GE, I'm guessing, when they sponsored Carousel of Progress. But after that, AAA, if you booked your vacation package through them, they had a lounge there that you could stop in and get a soda or something to drink. But I thought there might have been one for the Magic Kingdom Club too, but that just might be memories crashing together and that don't actually exist. So if anybody happens to know, please feel free to share with us.
Add that in. So we're going to go through this update film and talk a little bit about it. So guys, feel free to start up. Now, this film here was... again, it was 16 millimeter. This was a film that would be sent around to different clubs or presented in schools or probably more adult clubs and things. You could also rent the film from them, and they'd send it to you for your put on your home projector. But it really starts out in the beginning, really promoting Disneyland and some great shots of people handing over their Magic Kingdom card to a ticket booth. This film was also a little bit difficult to restore because, as we've talked about in other podcasts, some parts of the film were filmed in 35 millimeters, some were filmed in 16, and different lighting conditions. It made all the different scenes just completely different colors. So we've done our best guess at where the colors were and tried to normalize across the whole film. So, but there's a lot of neat, interesting Disneyland shots for those of you who are keen on Disneyland.
Everybody is dressed so 1980s as well.
Well, yeah, all the footage it was promoting 1980, so all the footage was shot in 79.
Yeah, and even there's some old footage in here too.
That great song, "It Could Only Happen at Disneyland."
That's right.
To be complimented by the one, "The Magic of Walt Disney World."
I just don't understand Mickey's giant red bow tie thing that he wore back then.
It is huge. It's like half the width of his cheek.
Oh man, they're rocking out in the Tomorrowland Terrace. And
Pinocchio has a big bow tie too.
It was a
very formal time.
Yeah.
Bow ties all around.
And some of these shots, this is
a lot of Disneyland.
We talked about, these are older, Disneyland shots. We talked in previous episodes about how
Christmas parade shot.
A lot of the shots in the Magic Kingdom in Florida were just done willy-nilly, right? They just went in here. But a lot of the Disneyland stuff, and especially for this film, you're going to see you're
looking at them walking in front of the
tiny
castle here at about 3 minutes. You'll see the benches that are no longer there on the sides.
But these shots are set up. There's a lot of shots in this that are set up. That might be.
No.
Is that Bill?
Who is that guy with the
Disneyland? We're in Disneyland.
Yeah.
So there's some really neat tickets there too, with the guy in the plaid.
Those are some pants.
Yeah, those are hot pants.
I see Hook and Smee.
Oh, look at that, umbrella strollers. Remember?
Oh yeah, they fold. Now there's a really weird looking Mickey coming up too.
Oh,
whoa!
Is he not trippy or
That's
what?
old. That's Walt.
The band playing at the Tomorrowland Paris is named Pizzazz.
There's a brand new Big Thunder Mountain Railroad being featured
Whoa.
here at about 350.
Look at that.
That's a sweet side shot where they got that from the cavern.
Yeah. Oh, that is a great shot of it going up inside.
Yeah, this is the wildest ride in the wilderness right here.
It is.
Hold on to them hats and lashes.
Very generic balloons in the parade.
Oh boy, they are.
And then you could win a trip.
Star Jets.
That's right. Look at this. The silver anniversary sweepstakes. So this is 1980.
$1,955.
Okay, so there's some beautiful shots, obviously taken from the Skyway, going over the People Mover,
Look up next to the
and then
pirate
the
ship.
the Skull Rock and the pirate ship.
Yep. Gorgeous shot.
Manual with $1,955 in cash. That extra $5 is going to make the difference.
1955.
Let's just page through this magazine because that makes
you
for
move
good
to-
film.
Page through.
The overhead. Some of the overhead shots are great here.
Yeah. And there's a lot of neat old shots here. The hotel.
Oh my gosh! This overhead shot of Alice in Wonderland. Oh, and here comes the old Disneyland Hotel. Oh, the Howard Johnsons.
Yeah.
They're all
Hojas.
set there.
The Good Neighbor hotels.
Yeah. The Inn on the Park.
Welcome.
Yeah, this is when Disney would promote the Good Neighbors.
The porte-cochere of the Inn on the Park looks like the convention center across the street.
And now we move to Orlando here at about 5 minutes, 20 seconds.
Tell me at this mark, at the 5:20, is this not the greatest animation of the Walt Disney World logo you have ever seen?
It is. We got to make a GIF of this.
I did. I've got one all ready to roll.
I am just zoned.
Future World Todd right there.
It's like
For some reason I want to go.
Here's Minnie gingerly walking down the steps.
She almost tripped.
Is he gingerly going? Oh, yes. Very slow.
Now they're
Easy.
playing the great song, The Magic of Walt Disney World.
Now, what's interesting is there is some other clips in here that I've seen on other, other films before, because again, this one was set up more to really entice you to come. Or you're already part of us. Look at all this extra fun you can have. Even shots of the electrical parade, which is kind of rare.
Close-ups of some faces there.
Yeah, again, one of the great things about this, we talk about it all the time, but there's no actors here. These are just actual guests that they've taken shots of. And
Because newness on the slalom ski.
the stage shot in Tomorrowland there is great.
Yeah, look
Listen
at that. The
to the
stage, got
music.
the swan
And then the
boats.
swan boats.
Oh yeah, that is a nice one.
They're really good at getting shots with like three things going on. Like you'll see a
old
skier
popcorn.
with a monorail with popcorn.
Yeah.
The pop grinder.
There's the
Now,
grinder.
this has got the Jungle Cruise guy in again. It's like, go look at his belt buckle because it's phenomenal.
You'll notice that the
ice cream shots, the
fetish.
obligatory ice cream
There's the
shots.
ice cream guy, yeah, and he was
There's
in Magical.
Pooh.
That looked like Haley Mills. Haley Mills,
Now the fake castle shot.
right? Which ended the magic of Walt Disney World. So
Let's show you the
Front
monorail.
car of the monorail.
Magic Kingdom Club passport.
look at those passport tickets, huh?
And you took
Ooh,
a
flipping
photo.
through that book. That's a lucky book. Look at that. Can still get in with those if you got them. Highway in the Sky, some golf.
Some horseback riding.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's interesting, in a little bit, the film's going to depart. I should say
Pioneer Hall. Oh.
You really got to listen to all of the commentary on it too.
A futuristic contemporary.
Yeah.
Treehouse
Just
Village.
Treehouse, yeah.
There's
Green
Todd.
Lake Buena Vista
Right.
Shopping Village here. So
I was
great
there.
aerial shots of it.
Yeah, and look how small the lake is too.
Wow, it's so blue. Hotel Plaza Row. Yeah.
They actually go in some of the rooms here in Hotel Plaza and then back to the village.
Look at that.
Just some great shots downtown.
Oh, yes, there it is.
Somebody's carrying pies out of there.
Oh, there's the wine cellar.
Waiting for the pie joke.
Ah, Toys Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, and the pie and the wine cellar.
Man, that lounge where they're having those drinks and that peanuts is so 70s.
That's the golf resort, man.
Oh.
Nice Mickey with his bow tie again. It's huge.
There's the
There's the
mariachi
mariachi.
band welcoming the monorail.
You know, when I went through there last week, I looked for them. I didn't see them.
They weren't there.
No.
Must have been their day off.
That's a sweet shot with the sun burning through the monorail.
Okay, at 9:01,
Yeah.
they are in a bar
Yeah, what is that one?
Contemporary. So we have got to figure out whether this is the Monorail Club bar, because this is probably an unprecedented shot right here. It's like
really
Coquino Cove, right?
I don't think I mean, we have to try to figure out what this is because no one has taken a picture of that. There is no picture of that place anywhere.
Ever,
yeah.
No cameras, folks. Sorry. Leave them at the door.
Wilderness Railroad.
It's nice. Oh, there's the big cut sign.
Here's a change of pace.
Yeah, so if for those of you who are watching and listening to us at the same time, possibly that the video really does jump around, or the film really jumps around quite a bit.
Wow.
But they're at this point in the narration, they're telling you about all the exciting things that you can do.
So you think you could go to Walt Disney World for like 2 or 3 days, maybe?
Based on this?
On a whole vacation?
Really?
Well, if you run out of things to do, they now promote Cypress Gardens here and some of the other things you can do.
That's more Fort Wilderness Railroad.
Okay, there's a ton of great river country footage in there.
From the top. More golfing.
And how to inappropriately touch a golfer.
Just turn this way, sir. Right there. Been there.
Whoops.
I would love access to the raw footage from these shoots because there's some great like aerial shots of downtown Disney and
they film for like a straight hour.
I mean, look at that the tower and looking down Main Street. This
oh gosh, the Captain's Tower. Oh.
Yep. And I think coming up how is it looks like I believe it's the Polynesian pool.
So you could actually see there how they had the entertainment stage at the Captain's Tower.
Yep.
Because of the terraces there. Oh.
Actually, that's river country. Sorry, not Polynesian.
Yeah, river.
So now they start to go off to other ports of call.
Yeah, they're telling you about basically it's a travel club.
That we could take you to these far off places.
The Orient.
Yeah, and then they show you clips of the
Polynesian
blue web, but then they clip right to London.
Where is that after London?
Yeah,
looks
you
like
got to
it's
listen
from
to
Thunderball
wherever that
right
is.
there.
I don't want to go there.
And I'm not
Bill
quite
Cork
sure
again.
what these still shots are, but you've got scuba diving and still shots of.
Now you're back to Pants McGee buying his tickets.
He ran
Mr.
out.
McFarkle.
You might know the McFarkles.
He ran out. He had to get more. Too much to do.
So many adventures. Oh, okay. At 11:26, there is some crazy kind of golf cart thing.
Yeah, that's a off-site thing. They're promoting your.
They have got the Magic Kingdom Club canvas bags though, with the logo with the balloon on it there.
Yeah.
And then they have slides of the reservation center, and the films for rental.
Oh, that's right. You would, with your Magic Kingdom Club, you'd also get a subscription to the Disney News.
Yep, that's right.
But the Magic Kingdom Club is also how someone got a hold of this film and never returned it.
Yep.
So we got to see it.
This is there's the computer.
This computer reservation center is fantastic. Actually, that is that was probably down in Tampa. Might have been.
They did zoom in on the screen here. What's it say?
Somebody's reservation.
July 6, 1979 at the Dutch Inn.
Is that it?
Stephanie, it literally said somebody's name.
Wow.
It's like personal. Stephanie
In 1980,
somebody here.
people couldn't stop and look at it. It was being
Stephanie
projected for
Parker.
So fast.
Oh,
No,
there's
Mr.
availability starting on Friday, July 6th, 1979.
Well, let's book it now, guys.
Here we go.
Mr. Stephen Parker.
Let's find her.
And then they
I think
have
it's
some
Steven.
kids.
I think it's Steven.
Now it's getting
spelled-
creepy, guys. Now we're
It's
getting
Mr. Steven Parker.
All right, Steven podcast at retrodisneyworld.com.
Tell us about your stay.
That's right.
It was $32 a night.
Wow.
So, and thus ends another film, The Magic Kingdom Club. Now, I don't know, but I have heard that this film was actually first screened at Roy's Cabin.
Oh.
It's entirely possible.
I'm sure they had a
It's serious
glorious,
here. Come on, Roy's Cabin had been torn down by this point.
Oh.
a glorious green carpet.
Yeah.
Burned down to the
ceremony.
ground.
What is this store that they're in?
I don't know. It looks
Sorry.
newer, though.
It's really,
Is that the toy store in?
It is not.
It's not.
It's not
It's all
Toys
toy, but it's
Fantastic.
all, yeah.
It's a great film.
That's a hotel gift shop, I think.
Yeah, it might be. That's true.
makes me want to go to Disneyland in 1980.
Yeah.
As well as Disney World in 1980.
Go back there and see it all. So, all right. Well, it is time to close it out for this month. Appreciate everybody listening. And let's check in with our sponsors and then talk a little bit about what's coming up in the future. So, thank you to Ticket Mama for all your Orlando area ticket needs. Visit ticketmama.com for less than gate prices. And Rental Car Mama. When renting Orlando, visit Rental Car Mama for discounts at Advantage Rent-A-Car and other firms. And by OrlandoVacation.com, vacation homes and discounts for the savvy Florida traveler. And we also like to thank www.map.com and Chris Buckholz for their continued support of the Retro Disney World podcast. And if you're interested in sponsoring us, please email us at info@retrodisneyworld.com. All right, and as always, thanks to our listeners. Keep the emails and phone calls coming. We love hearing from you guys. If you can give us a review on iTunes, if possible, that would be great. Let your friends and family know about us. Guys, we got an exciting couple episodes coming up. We've got some great interviews next month. I know, Brian, you've got somebody booked. We've got, we hinted at it earlier. We're not going to mention it again, but the March episode is going to unveil some secrets of things that people may not have ever heard before and some special stories.
Yeah, the next 2 months we have people from the history of Walt Disney World to come on as guests in consecutive months, have a lot of insight into a lot of stories you will not have heard before.
That's right. And we've got some additional books to give away as well that are going to be coming your way. So they are booked and ready. So we will be back with you in February. So, all right, everybody. Well, with that, thank you very much. And Brian, take us out.
Follow Todd McCartney and Retro Disney World on Twitter and Instagram at RetroWDW. On Facebook at Retro Disney World. And for all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at RetroDisneyWorld.com. On Twitter, follow our hosts, Hal Bowers at GoAwayGreen, for JT Kuzier at Hoagie's Garage, and you can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Brian P. Miles.
Thank you all for listening to us. We hope you understand good nutrition's a must. Think of variety in balanced amounts. This is good for your health, and that is all that counts.
Think of our commentary on the foods from the dairy.
It's not hard to imagine
that will always be in fashion.
Hey, good people, have you heard? Breads and cereals are the word. Tell your friends we have arrived. This group is hip to the jive.
Just remember with each meal, meats are such a tasty deal. Say goodbye to his bad jokes,
'cause we're going up in smoke, folks. Allez, amigos! Don't forget, veggie fruit are a good bet. You'll enjoy us at each meal, because we have a peel.
Won't lead you astray when you balance up their ads. Mealtime blues will go away.
All right, bring it on home.
Proper foods each time you dine can keep you fit and feeling fine.
Eating right's a healthy sign, and feeling good makes each day